All right, hello everybody. Happy Friday. It is February 18th, 2022, and we're going to just go ahead and do what we do every morning. Yesterday was basically, basically not nothing to trade. Now, if you shorted the market, that was, a great pick, but, all throughout the morning here, it was, slowly chopping back and forth. In fact, when we came into the open here, let's see. Yeah, so here's the open. So for the first 5 or 10 minutes, we're just going, not another one of these days, up and down. It was very low volume, very tight. And then, we were in a bearish channel, right? We were making lower highs, lower lows. But because the volume and everything was and the ranges were so small, I basically told everyone, it's not worth trading over in here. And then as we started breaking lower, it became a little bit more obvious that maybe we should have some shorts on. But like I said, if you shorted right around the open or up somewhere off of the highs over here, then great. You had a great day, right? You rode the whole market down. But again, it was very, very slow and choppy here. And so I didn't really call anything until we got this obvious breakdown and broke below 44.15. And then I went ahead and put a short on myself, told you guys that this would be that first aggressive level to get in. The trade went about 6, 7 points in my favor and then came all the way back. And I was looking for a 10-point push right down to our expected support at 44.04. So it came down, just missed, and then, came back. And then, of course, pushed just about 2 or 3 points against that level and then came all the way down. And this 44.04, our expected support, ended up holding for quite a long time here. And we even got a nice attempt to break out from it. And I'm not sure what happened after that. Wasn't really watching the charts much after here. And even still, all throughout this here, even though the overall trend was kind of down, overall very slow, tight ranges, very, very choppy. So just was kind of a disgusting morning. And I guess, you could have bought oh 04 and got some type of nice bounce out up to that previous daily low. Um, but hey, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And then it just continued to slowly chop and trend lower, which brought us to the end of the day. So let's see here. This is what brings us into this morning. And as you can see, the bulls tried to bring it back up and maybe, get some type of reversal here. But the bears jumped in and swatted the market right back down. There's something very interesting to note about where we turned here in the market. If you guys remember back to our pre-market yesterday, we went back and we highlighted this level here that I have selected on the screen. It's right around 44. What's the actual level? 44.0975. I thought it was 1075, but let's go back and I want to show you where that level came from. Um, and unfortunately this might not be the best time frame. So we'll go to a higher time frame, but what I want to show you here is we plotted this on the chart yesterday. I believe it was 44.10. I guess it was 0975. We'll go to a higher time frame and see where that came from. We were expecting that as a potential support level. Oh, a huge jump in my dome here. I don't know what just happened. Sometimes there's a little news event. But we were expecting that to act as a support. So as the market came down, I don't think it actually ended up working out. Oh yeah, it did. So it came down, and that's the level that we held coming up into the back end of this major eye level that I wanted to short. So we actually used it as a support and then generally acted as a pretty good resistance all throughout here. We did get a little breakout, but then each other test was a pretty much a rejection from there. So that level to me might actually end up becoming a new minor level in on our charts because look what ended up happening here. So little choppy towards the end of that little period in time, but when we came back, and this is the thing, we came back right to it. We pushed just 2 points, less than 2 points above, and then got this rejection here in the overnight session. So I think we might be adding somewhere around 09 to 10 as in a minor eye level. And then just to kind of beat my chest here again, in the overnight session, we came up to 98, had a lot of trouble, couldn't get through. We sold off right to 61. We broke it by what? Almost 2 points, and then came right up, and now we got this rejection directly off the 200 and our eye level. In fact, I put a trade in right there at 80 quarter, and it had pulled back a little bit. And what I was hoping for here, if I could zoom in a little bit, I was hoping, so I saw it come up and touch, and at that moment I was like, I just missed my opportunity. But I put a limit order in at 80 quarter, one tick in front of the eye level there at the 200 directly. I was hoping what would happen here is the market would pull back like that and then come back up and maybe test the level and then go ahead and do exactly what it's doing right now, which is pull back. So I left the limit order there, but it never came back. So this is one of those instances where the market pushed right into a level and left, never came back. These are the kind of trades I want to be in because, like I said, I am very averse to risk. So the second a trade gets filled and it starts going in my favor, I don't want to hold on for some type of retest. I'd like to see it just go, just like it did here off this level. It came down into it, came out, and that was it. Did not play around and come back and retest and do all that kind of stuff. Same thing right there. And this is, I'm trying to make an argument to you guys for why you need to put a trade in and see the market turn at the level, or else it doesn't make sense to stay in it. And you just see it over and over again. So let's get into today. Spent a little bit of time looking at all that. Higher time frames have not changed. Our 3-month or quarterly chart looks exactly the same as it did probably even 2 weeks ago because we haven't really moved out of the range we're in. Our monthly also looks basically the same here, still holding below 50% of the previous month, and still way below 50% of the current candle, which would be somewhere around 44, 47, 44, 48 there. We're way down at 43, almost 100 points or 100 point, more than 100 points below 50% of the monthly candle there, so not looking great. And then on our weekly here, yesterday, remember this candle was actually a little bit blue or green, right? So it looked like I said, we have a nice bullish divergence off the lows. We have what looked to be somewhat of a green candle trying to break out. But looking at the weekly now, this is our last day. So this candle is going to close at the end of the day today. And just looking at what it looks like right now, if we do not get some type of bullish push today, whether it happens out of the open or it happens at the end of the day, if we don't get that bullish push, you see what this candle is going to look like when it closes. So if we don't even push up through the top end of the body there at 44.11, what are we going to have? We're going to have a big reversal candle there that looks just like this one and just like this one. So if this, again, keep in mind, if we don't get a bullish push, you should already know what this weekly chart is going to look like coming into next week, coming into Monday. It's going to be a big wick on the top side, again, not being able to get through 50% of that previous weekly candle and failing from there and coming down and getting another bearish bar. Not looking good for the bulls. And this potential bullish divergence I'm seeing, I'm going to still watch. But now that the candle has made a change for the worse, I'm not so sure I would want to rely on that. I would need to have a lot of other stuff, right? So just kind of watching it. And again, this is one of those setups where you have to keep in mind we're comparing this low here, 42.1275, should be very familiar to you guys, all the way up to the low we're making now, and we're getting that divergence. That means we've got this whole area here where the price could come down and retrace. Why is that? We have this whole area here all the way down to 42.1275 that the price could continue to come down and we might still have this broad divergence forming, right? So there's still a lot of room here and we could still potentially have that weekly signal. So just some stuff to keep in mind up on the higher time frames. Let's get down to our daily. So yesterday I'm going to have to update that level. So 50% is 44.21. Forgive me here. It is 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. now, so did not have a chance to go in and do that. So 50% of yesterday, 44.21. We're obviously way below that right now on this new daily bar. And what do we see? What's going on right here? We've got the nice impulsive move out of the 61.8 retracement. We get the failure right off the back end off of a marked level that we've been watching and actually commented on 2 days ago when we came up to the back end of it. And now we're coming back down. Could we get a double bottom right here with a potential divergence that could lead to a breakout to that way? That's one possibility. Do I think that there's a high probability that that's going to happen? No, but that is a possibility. We could still come down and test this low here at 43.54. We could even come down like we know they do and break 43.54 by a few ticks or a few points, get some type of daily divergence and get a larger bounce to come up and retest this 45.80 to 45.70 to 45.80 area. That's one possibility. Again, there's probably a million possibilities, but there's two things that I'm kind of looking at. That's one of them, a potential double bottom or a potential peak below and then bounce back up, that kind of thing. Or if we break, so I'm going to watch this level, the low is 43.54. If 43.54 breaks, again, you guys know it opens us up into the lower chop block down here. So let's go to the 4 hour and take a look at some of the levels. But just from the daily perspective, I want you to keep this bigger time frame in mind. It looks like if you just kind of, regardless of analysis, and you just look at it in an intuitive sense, it looks like we're failing and we're going to come down and break lower, right? It looks like we're going to come down, break the low at 54 and come test this lower area of the chart. That's what it looks like to me. Not knowing anything about trading or technicals or indicators, just looking at what price is doing right now. And anything's possible, right? We had a pullback from here, looked like we could come retrace the leg, came right back up. And because the market is very, very, I don't know what the word is, very two-sided, I guess, we could see a bounce right off the 54 and come back and retest this high just like we kind of did here, just on a smaller scale, and fail again. You know, there's so many things that could happen. But the two main ones, a potential bounce with a double bottom or a peak below and bounce formation, or a break of that, and we're going to come down into this lower area. So let's take a look. We are right at the top of our chop block, right? We had the block up here. We had the block down here, and again, we found support right in the middle of the two blocks there as expected. So this morning, again, 43.54 is that low. Getting through that area around 54 here is going to open us into this lower block right here, which is just about 42.60 up to that 43.50 area. So keep in mind, that's the area we're looking at. And on this 4 hour chart, what else can I bring to the table here? First thing to note, the little leg we were looking at, the bounce from that 43.50 expected support up to the high we made just a day or two ago, that retracement scheme we were watching, and we actually bounced right off the 50 at some point, and this might have been drawn a little bit lower at that point, so it came right into the 50, actually front ran it and bounced, and then we redrew up to the new high, which is 84.50. So let me draw it to 84.50 there, and then we came down, and look what happened here. If you can really zoom in, we actually hit the 61 to the tick and got a little bit of a bounce. It just wasn't for very much. It was like a 4 or 5 point bounce, and then they continue lower. So this retracement is done. So that's what I was just trying to say. And then we have the larger leg here that we had trouble breaking through for the last few days, the 50 to 61.8 retracement area of that leg. So just like the bigger picture, we came down and came up and failed at the 61. This is like a little micro version of that. If you zoom in, we got the pullback, bounced at the expected support, came up, and failed right around that 61.8 retracement. So we'll see again, is it going to follow through and come down and break through the lows we made, basically the expected support zone? We'll have to see. So let's take a look at the levels now. We are holding 61. So in the overnight, I do want to pound my chest again. We came down, broke 61 quarter by I think a point and a half. It came right back up. So that 61 that we're holding there, once that breaks, if it breaks, we're going to have to look at what we have below us here coming into the open. So first thing that's pretty obvious here is the 2450 area. So if we get through 61, the larger target to me is going to be down into 2450. Maybe front run it a little bit if you're taking profit in case they do bounce just in front of that. So that would be a target. And then below there, we've got this level 4296, 4297 that I wouldn't be surprised to see some type of larger bounce from, just because we've come down and found a lot of buyers there for some really strong bounces back up. So this area here, right around 4295 to maybe 4300, we might actually have an eye level down there. So we do have something right at 93, which is not really what I was looking at. There is a prediction point at 99, but I do think, like I said, somewhere right, let me see what these levels are. 94, 96, somewhere right around 90, let's say 90 to 4300 there. So let me highlight this. Somewhere right around, see how pinpointed we can get. Maybe 93 up into 98. Let's say 93 to 4300 right there. Again, I know it's a little bit of a range, but that's an area right there that we've found buyers come in multiple times. So be aware of that. If we get through 2450, that area from 4300 down to maybe even down to 4290, a little 10-point range, could be a potential area like we see them come into and get the bounce. So watch that. And then any deeper than there, I do think there are probably some prediction points and maybe some minor eye levels in that range between 4290 and 4260. But I think if we get through that shaded region, it really opens us up right into 62. And then from there, who knows? I mean, we're going to go right back into 4240 and 4213. The swing low, remember, was 4212.75. So those are the main levels where we would target to the downside if it does break lower. On the flip side of things, we need to look at what we're bouncing up into as expected resistance here. So again, keep in mind, we've got the lows around 61 and then the lows from at the beginning of the week there. If those break, we're right into 24, right down into 4300 or 4290 area, and then right into 4262, with the caveat that there probably are some minor levels kind of interspersed between there that could hold, but these are the bigger targets. So keep that in mind, and let's look at what we're dealing with to the upside here. So I want to kind of get rid of some of these little shaded regions just because they might mess things, they might kind of make things a little bit messy here. These were levels we were watching as price was pulling back here. So I'm going to just remove those. And there's a good bullish formation here. So I want you guys to be aware that the pullback to 61 does have, and let me just make sure. Well, the little probe that we made down to that low here, just below 61, unfortunately on the 4-hour doesn't have it, but just down to that 66, the low from yesterday, we do have 4-hour, 60-minute, 30-minute, and 10-minute bullish divergence down here. And most of the confluence is right off of the peak below. So this is a peak below and bounce type of pattern, but we want to keep in mind that this is a pretty heavy downtrend. Um, everyone's expecting lower. So, do we want to rely on this and, go in on a gigantic position because we expect a major reversal? Probably not. But we want to be aware that we do have a huge confluence of signals right here off 61. So if we start to get some follow through, it might not be a bad idea to maybe start a long position and start taking profit at the expected resistances above. So let's get into that really quickly because we're getting a little long in the tooth here. A bounce up. What are we looking at in the most immediate levels? We're looking at that swing low at 87 as 87 quarter as a first expected resistance zone there. We actually have kind of in that general area around 83, 84, 85, 86 from a couple of days ago, a pretty good little area of support right there. So if we do come up, there might be some trouble here for the bulls right in this region. And that major swing low is 81.75. So what I'll do here is I'll draw a line across 81.75 just to be aware of it if price starts to push up. And get that in there. And I will make sure to copy that over here. So watch that swing low and then that general shaded area if they do start pushing. The top of the shaded area would be the swing low there. And then, it's just going to have to be piece by piece here. We've already tested that major swing that we were watching on the pullback yesterday, almost to the tick in the overnight session. So I don't know if it's going to be relevant a second time, but we have that. And 15 has been a motherfucker for quite a while, so you never know. It's also just about, let's look at the retracement here, just about 50%, I want to say. Just under. So just about 50% of the leg, and you can see the magenta line is 50% of the previous day, so right over in there. If they get through that general area, the last spot I'm looking at is that swing low there at 44.35.75. So we've got that little zone, basically that 10-point range. A lot of resistance or a lot of support over off of that 45. And a lot of support just below it. So right in there, also a trouble spot for the bulls. Probably want to take profit in front of that just in case there is resistance. And then after that, it's going to be right up to 74 and then the highs from a few days ago. So we got to get to the short time frames. The market is literally about to open in about 20 seconds. So let's jump in and see what we can do here. It might be another morning where we just don't really trade because it's low volume and there's not a lot of movement. So here we are.